Today's book is The Frog Prince. It's a classic fairy tale illustrated and retold by Jess Stockham. The Frog Prince. Once upon a time, there was a princess who had no friends. The king and queen invited other boys and girls to play with her, but they would not stay for long. She does not share, they said. She does not keep her promises. We don't like playing with her. I don't care, the princess said. I don't like them anyway. So the princess became used to playing by herself. She liked to play down by the deep mill pond with her best toy, an old ball made of the purest gold, which her grandmother had given her. One day she dropped the ball, and before she could stop it, it rolled into the pond. She watched it sink into the depths until she could see it no more, and she began to cry. I'll never find it now, she wept. It's lost forever. Just then a small voice came from the pond. What's the matter, little girl? Why are you upset? And there were two small eyes poking out of the water. I'm not a girl, she said huffily. I'm a princess, and I'm upset because I just dropped my golden ball in the water, and now I'll never see it again. A head popped up. Don't cry, it croaked. Ugh, said the princess. I'm talking to a frog. You're lucky you are, answered the frog. I can rescue your ball from the pond. Really? Said the princess. I'd give you a reward. I've got some lovely jewels, even a crown. Well, that's of no use to me, croaked the frog. But if I did rescue your ball, it would be nice if you would be my friend. I could come to your palace and have a meal with you and maybe sleep over. Of course, said the princess. Sure, I promise. And so, without another word, the frog dived below the surface. The princess watched as it swam down until she couldn't see it anymore, and after what seemed an age, she saw its dark shape coming up from the surface once more, with the shiny ball in its mouth. See, there's the frog. The frog hopped out of the water and dropped the precious ball. Thank you, said the princess as she picked it up. And goodbye, I have to be home for supper. And she ran off toward the castle. Well, wait, called the frog. We're supposed to be friends now. Don't be silly, the princess called back over her shoulder. Who ever heard of a frog being friends with a human, let alone a princess? The very next morning, the princess was at breakfast when there was a loud knocking on the door. Well, who could that be? Asked the king. I'll go, offered the princess. It might be a present. She ran to the door and opened it, and to her horror, she saw the frog sitting on the step. She slammed the door shut and went back to the table. Oh, who was that at the door, dear? Asked the queen. Just a frog, muttered the princess, feeling a little ashamed at how she had treated the frog. A frog? Inquired the king. What would a frog want with us? They heard more knocking and a reedy croak at the frog from the frog. Let me in, it cried. Let me in. Remember your promise? Look at him. Oh, a promise is a promise, said the queen. You'd better tell us all about it, she said. So the princess told them how the frog had rescued her beloved golden ball. Well then, said the king, you must let him in. The princess went slowly to the door and opened it. You promised that I could come and visit you, the frog reminded her. Is breakfast ready? I'm so hungry. And so he hopped right on in. Even though it was only a frog, it seemed very much at home in the grand surroundings. Nice palace you've got here, the frog said approvingly. This is a nice breakfast. Can I sit next to you? Don't be silly, said the princess. You're only a frog. "You must be kind," her parents reminded her, "and you must keep your promises." So the princess lifted the frog to the table and it joined them for breakfast. It was very good company and told lots of jokes, and there were times when the princess almost forgot that it was a frog. They played together all day. The frog knew some really good games, and they both had a lovely time. It's under this one. "Time for bed," her parents called at last. "Frog, would you like to stay over?" "I'd love to," croaked the frog. So the princess was not so sure, but her parents reminded her of her promise. "Oh well," she snapped, "if I have to." And although she wouldn't admit it, she quite enjoyed getting ready for bed. The frog knew lots of really exciting bedtime stories, and it was very late before they were both asleep. The princess woke up the next morning to the sound of quiet, tiny sobs coming from the frog. He's crying, see that? "What's the matter?" she asked. "All I wanted was a proper friend," sobbed the frog, "but you're only doing this because your parents told you have to. I might as well go back to my pond." "Oh, please don't cry," said the princess. "I had fun yesterday. I actually forgot you were a frog for some of the time." I do think we can be friends," she said. "I know some really good games and we can play today, so stop crying." And with that, the princess gave the frog a friendly kiss on the cheek. There was a sudden flash, and all at once the frog vanished, and a boy appeared in the frog's place, and he wore the finest clothes and a splendid crown. Look at that. "Thank you," the boy cried. "I was trapped in a spell, but now I can go back to my life as a prince." "Not before we play those games," said the princess. So they had such a lovely time playing together that the prince decided to stay another day and another day until it seemed silly to ever leave, and they became the very best of friends. The end.